Good evening. It's May 20th, and this is the Village of Gates Mills regular council meeting to start at 5:30. Clerk, may we have the roll call, please?
Here. Here.
Deacon, present. Onesco,
Here.
Press, Steinberg,
Here.
Turner.
Thank you. We have quite a full house today. It's good to see. I was tempted at first to maybe move this section to the end so that you guys could all stay and we could see faces, because normally after the first 20 minutes, we're talking to ourselves with a little bit of video help. But thanks for coming. We'll keep the order the way they are, and we appreciate the fact that there are no criminals or fires going on in the Village of Gates Mills in the next 30 minutes because the entire force is sitting in the back of the room, though they could move quickly if need be. Okay, this is a great day because we've got three individuals that are further committed to the Village of Gates Mills. They have demonstrated the skill through training and through hard work with their respective fire and police achievements. And we're here today to recognize those achievements. We're going to start, if we can, with firefighter Jared Fritz. Jared, could you come up forward, please? And if you have a mother, sister, child, whatever, you're welcome to bring them along. Okay? We'll stay over there.
I, Jared Fritz. I will support
The Constitution of the United States.
the Constitution of the United States.
The Constitution of the State of Ohio.
The Constitution of the State of Ohio.
And the Charter and ordinances of the Village of Gates Mills.
And the Charter and ordinances of the Village of Gates Mills.
And they will honestly, faithfully, and impartially
Will honestly, faithfully, and impartially
discharge my duties as firefighter,
discharge my duties as firefighter,
to which I have been appointed according to law
to which I've been appointed according to law
and to the best of my ability.
and to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you. Better hold that for a minute so I can get a picture here.
All right.
Oh, that's wonderful. Okay, ready? Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Another sheet of paper. Brace, you're up. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Okay, we have to try run. There's the badge. Please repeat after me. I, Bryce Day,
I, Bryce Day,
hereby swear that I will support
I do hereby swear I support
the Constitution of the United States of America,
the Constitution of the United States of America,
the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
and the Charter and ordinances of the Village of Gates Mills,
the Charter and ordinances of Gates Mills,
and that I will honestly,
and I will honestly,
faithfully, and impartially
faithfully, and impartially
discharge my duties as firefighter,
discharge my duties as firefighter,
to which I have been appointed
to which I have been appointed
according to law
according to law,
and to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Congratulations. Now we're gonna pick on that one. Okay, that looks good. 1, 2, 3. Okay, Tom?
Congratulations.
Rob, anything else?
I was saying, we're very fortunate to have these two fine gentlemen in our fire department. They both come to us with training as professional trained firefighters, the firefighter 2 certification. Bryce Day recently completed his training program at the State of Ohio Fire Academy in Reynoldsburg. And Jared Fritz has previous experience as a firefighter and paramedic. So we're very pleased to have them join and supplement our crew. and be part of our great team. So thank you very much for your support, and thanks to these two guys for stepping up.
And it might have not been said, Mayor. I just wanted to point out that Bryce is the son of Mike Day, the police sergeant detective. Mike is out of town today. I don't know if did we mention that? Mike's on the phone. So that was how we found Bryce.
Very good.
So, we started about a year ago to get the fire academy full as best we could. To have a cadet program again was the beginning of many of our current staff. And it's great to see that we've got 2 more firefighters sworn in today. And they've gone through a lot. This is weeks and months of training and out-of-town training. And we appreciate the commitment and glad to see it being completed. Okay, Dylan, Dylan, where are you? There we are. Thank you. Emily's the pinner. Good for you. Logan, right there, man. Where do you want to stand? Okay. So we are also pleased that we had the opportunity to look at the staffing of the police department and had an opportunity and some additional responsibilities for a person at a sergeant position. We're very pleased that many on the staff competed for and interviewed for that position, whether they thought they could make it this time or not. It was great to see them have the confidence in themselves and the confidence in the village to explore that. We had an interview committee of 3 individuals, 2 from the staff here, 1 an FBI, experienced FBI agent. And so we're very pleased with how the process went. We thank all the candidates that participated. At the end of the day, Dylan Hatusky was selected as the individual that we would promote to the position of police sergeant. And Dylan, I have an oath of office if you're willing to take that. Repeat after me. I, Dylan Hatusky,
I, Dylan Ostowski,
do hereby swear
do hereby swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America,
the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
and the Charter and ordinances of the Village of Gates Mill,
the Charter and ordinances of the Village of Gates Mills,
and that I will honestly, faithfully, and impartially
and I will honestly, faithfully, and impartially
discharge my duties
discharge my duties
as police sergeant
as police sergeant,
to which I have been appointed
to which I have been appointed
according to law,
according to law,
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Congratulations. One, two, three, ready? Okay, beautiful, thank you. Take a lot of pictures if you want. You can get the paperwork. Give me all the paperwork and she knows that I've got piles of it and she just wants her 2 sheets back. Dylan, where are we? Okay. Sign that, please. Get you your pen back, Sandra.
No problem. I got more. They're Huntington.
We're also pleased to, yeah, whoever wants to stay can stay, or not. Bob still here? Bob, stand up for a moment, would you? I want you all just to recognize for a minute, 35 years of dedicated plus service to the village. Bob Brightman is wonderful evidence of what it takes to be a volunteer and how long that goes, how many different camps and where. I had a chance to put together all the different committee functions that Bob worked on on a volunteer basis in the last 35 years. And they've run everything from one of our initial Gates Mill plan, serving trustees back in 1989,
all the way now, and the tax administrator and members of the finance committee, the wage benefit committee, the insurance committee. In that period of time, Bob also ran publicly as clerk and treasurer and served in those positions for the maybe 8 to 10 to 12 years. So we appreciate Bob you doing that. Bob is agreed to pass on the role of tax administrator to Chuck Spear, Chuck is Stanford. And Chuck has been in the village for 3 or 4 years now as a Shaker Heights graduate, as a lawyer by training, ran a financial services firm in California for most of his career, and is very interested in further helping the village. So with council's approval in a moment, I'm appointing Chuck as our tax administrator to take on Bob's role effective now, and also assistant treasurer of the village, so he has the authority to represent the village in those meetings and caucuses and so on that we need. I also understand that Chuck's interested in running for treasurer at the fall, so this gives all of us, frankly, about 6 months heads up training that Chuck will be able to do the job if he's elected in November with 6 months and so. So Bob, first of all, thank you. Council for motion to approve Spear as self-care tax administrator and as assistant treasurer.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you, Sandra. Any discussion? Roll call, please, Beth.
Eton,
Yes.
Broom,
Yes.
Deacon,
Yes.
Vanessa,
Yes.
Press,
Yes.
Steinbrink,
Yes.
Turner.
Yes.
Must be getting good at this. Now I got 2 sheets. Read from one at a time. Okay, Chuck, where are you? Stand up, please.
Mayor.
Forward.
Okay. I, Chuck Spear,
I, Chuck Spear,
do hereby solemnly swear
do hereby solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America,
the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
and the Charter and ordinances of the Village of Gates Mills,
and the Charter and ordinances of the Village of Gates Mills,
and that I will honestly, faithfully, and impartially
that I will honestly, faithfully, impartially
discharge my duties as Assistant Treasurer and Tax Administrator,
discharge my duties as Assistant Treasurer and Tax Administrator,
to which I have been appointed,
which I have been appointed
according to law and the best of my ability.
according to law and to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Not 3 or 4 years, it's 5 years. I've been here 5 years. I came from California. I was scared to death you'd think me as an invasive species. But that's not what you thought. Very quickly, I was involved in a comprehensive plan with Lindsay Steinbrink as a co-chairman of a committee. We did that work quickly. I called a friend. I said, I'm done. I don't have anything else to do. And she said to me, just show up. Keep showing up. Eventually, they'll find something for you. And here we have the eventually, and I appreciate it so much. All of you, I appreciate it so much. I do intend, if Dixon Morgan does not choose to run for treasurer, to do that. The very friend who told me to just stick with it sent me this morning this treasurer's sash, which I will wear once if I win, then not. Thank you very much.
Okay, let's see if I have a phone installed. Do.
I hope so. Okay, with that, let's go to item number 6, minutes of the council meeting of April 15th. Beth, any questions or comments from the field?
I did get a comment, I believe it's been emailed to everyone else. The mayor, in his gentlemanly and infinite way, decided that we should not bash the post office. So on page 5, the second paragraph under item E, the first 10 lines, starting with resident Jerry Bohank, and we go down 10 lines to where it ends with problematic. We want to get rid of all of that. And Councilmember Broom added some suggestions. So what we'd like to say, again, not to upset the post office in our negotiations and lose them, we will say, a resident made comments about service. Councilmember Broom, in response to a resident inquiry, spoke with the postmaster, and while there have been challenges in hiring, they are working to get staffing sorted out. That's the only suggestion.
What was it actually said?
That would be a good way to
No, was it,
summarize it.
was it actually said? Were they the words used? You've held me to this standard before.
I would summarize it this way.
Okay, if it was said, that's fine.
Okay. Do we get a, oh, do you want us?
I have a couple other just
Please.
Okay.
small ones. Oh, so page 3. So, in the, not the first big paragraph, second 2 lines, and then where it says Broom, if we were to fall victim to a ransomware attack, would we have enough to start all over again? I think it was enough data storage or offsite storage
Enough.
to start all over again.
So we will add offsite storage after enough.
Yes, ma'am. And then down further, where it says, I think I asked, do you guys look for any intrude?
Okay.
One more, sorry.
Don't be.
Page 11. So it would be the second, it'd be Broom and then Deacon and then Broom. And in the second line, it begins attend virtually because you're having, I think I said substantive. So that's SUBSTANTIVE.
Instead of substance.
Substantive.
Any other comments or corrections? We have a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Thank you, Scott. Second.
Second.
Thank you, Laurie. Any conversation? Roll call.
Aton,
Yes.
Broom,
Yes.
Deacon,
Yes.
Onesco,
Yes.
Press, Steinbrink,
Yes.
Turner.
Yes.
Okay, before we proceed on to the other items, Brad Dean, who is a representative in the field here from U.S. Congresswoman Chantel Brown, wanted to introduce himself and pass on his comments. So we've asked Brad to spend a few minutes in front of council.
Thank you very much, sir. Really just wanted to take this evening to stop by and introduce myself. My name's John Brad Dean. I work for Representative Chantel Brown. You can call me Brad. I've worked in constituent services, so I can assist with issues such as postal issues. We could also assist with a number of things that the village might need help with when it comes to letters of support for grants or perhaps appropriations in the future. But we do have a full constituent service office for your community to use. So if your residents are having problems with Social Security or IRS or Veterans Affairs or the Railroad Retirement Board, whatever it may be on the federal level, we can certainly reach out to that agency, attempt to put a bit of pressure on them, certainly seek answers, good answers, substance answers from them in regards to really any issue at the federal level. We can also try to serve as a connector to state issues as well. Obviously, we don't have direct jurisdiction, but just wanted to introduce myself and give you a face and a name. I was able to give cards to some of you. However, I ran out of cards about halfway around the table. So if you could share with your colleagues, but certainly feel free to give our Beechwood office a call and ask for Brad. I'll be happy to help you in whatever you need.
Thank you for coming and introducing yourself. We appreciate that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is item number 7, pay ordinance number 1297 in the amount of $806,000. Any questions on items in the pay ordinance?
I did have a question. The Mayfield Village item on page 9 for 114,000. I'm assuming that's for ambulance runs, but maybe not.
We'll let Janet take a look, but I think you're going to be correct. It's ambulance. Janet?
Yeah, in fact, if you look on the second line, it says first quarter EMS 2025. I
First
did the report a little differently,
Yeah,
so the purpose now is showing up for you.
okay, it's right under it.
Mhm.
First quarter EMS.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So
Janet, that's
each of these in this new format will have, sorry, just so the new format is gonna have the reason for it underneath. Okay, that's great. That's a great addition, great improvement.
Good job.
Yeah, thanks, Jan. I noticed that. That was really helpful. Thank you very much.
Took a while to figure it out, but.
Yeah, well done.
No other questions? I'll have a motion to accept pay ordinance 1297.
So
So
moved.
moved. Second.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Sandra. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Aton?
Yes.
Broom?
Yes.
Deacon?
Yes.
Onesco?
Yes.
Press? Steinbrink?
Yes.
Turner?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, item number 8, Mayor's Report. I've got quite a few things on here to cover with you, and most of it should be material in your package. First of all, not on here is a small item that should be closed up in the next month. We have resolved, ordered, purchased, and will install the water fountain that is by the rackets court. This was funded primarily by about $9,000 of contributions that came in through the racket ladies and men that play in respect of a member that passed away, along with funds from the Gates Mills Improvement Society and their Marston Park Fund. The total cost installed will be about $10,000. The amount that we received from the Improvement Society was $9,000 and some odd dollars. It was a generous contribution. It will have a dog bowl. That was a big item. It will also have a bottle filler, which is a big item. It won't have refrigeration. That would have put us over 10. And we were targeting kind of 10,000 as the item here. So that should be up, Dave. Order it get it this week, next week, and up by the middle of June, something like that. We'll be also using LK, I think the LK brand, so that we'll have someone that can service it, as opposed to just buying something off of Amazon and then you wonder who's going to service brand X at the end of the year. So thank you for closing up that. Next item, 2025 priorities. Comment was made at the last meeting, geez, we really haven't had much going on with the priorities. And I said, well, geez, everything I do is based on the priorities. We have a little communication gap here. So we put together this colorful document that is labeled 25 priorities that's in your handouts. These are the items, the first 3 groupings are those strategic priorities that we put together last year with council's approval as to strategy, environmental stewardship, and community engagement. And then added to those other items that needed to get done that are important. Might not be strategic, but they're important for this year. I think I presented these to council in January or February. I believe you all agreed with them. And so frankly, this is how I manage my time and my efforts. I then, with the help of the staff, took a look at what I think is our current status. Again, these are elements of a 10-year plan in some cases, so they're not all going to get done this year, or they're certainly not going to all get done by April or May. But to be transparent with the constituents and with yourself, I graded them in terms of where I thought we were at. Obviously, if it was something that wasn't yet started, it was a 1. And even though we may have had conversations to get things started, if we really haven't gotten them started, to me, it was still a 1. Things that were early stage of in process were graded as a yellow, meaning we've got things up and running and evidence to show that. Number 3, in process and well along. And number 4, kind of in a light blue there, things that are essentially complete. So those are my views of the status. I'll claim them as mine just because we haven't asked you for yours or anyone else for them, so I'll claim them with accountability for them. If you have questions on them now or later, happy to field those. Michael, I hope this is responsive to, I think, your request for how we do it on priorities.
I do think there are 2 or 3 that didn't make the final list, and I'll submit those to you.
Okay,
If you think it has merit, we can discuss it in, June.
okay, thank you for sending them. There were a few that were sent along, like, you know, a trail for dogs. I just wasn't going to get on the top 29 things to do. But I'm not saying that's what that was, but there were a few that I said, geez, we probably can't really get that done this year. But to send them along, and any other comments that you have, and if anyone else has comments on what you think our status is, if we're generally in agreement with that, then I'll consider this item checked off. Okay?
Thank you.
Next item, sidewalk project, item 8B. This is the sidewalk to run between the lower parking lot of the elementary school and the community center and the village center, the library, town hall. We've been trying to meet with the plans have been set. The various drawings and graphics have been put together. We've been trying to meet with the 3 affected property owners as a courtesy to let them know what we are planning on doing vis-a-vis the sidewalk. I have met with 1, and the 2 that we were supposed to meet this afternoon got canceled, not by us. So we still need to, as a professional courtesy, I think, to our constituents, review with them the plans in detail. They have been sent the plans. They've seen what the sidewalk will look like and how there'll be a bridge over the creek there and so on. But it's one thing to send something in the mail. It's another thing to sit with them face to face and discuss it and take comments. We do need to get that up and going, though. Chris has the need to put out a RFP for order the bridge, which will have a lead time of several months. This will be a small pedestrian bridge, maybe 3 to 4 feet wide. And we'll also need to have council approve an RFP process for the concrete sidewalk manufacturers. So, Chris, I think this is, our target ought to be having the approvals that we need in front of council at the June meeting. And, you know, we'll push through gently the conversations with the neighbors and make sure we're responsive to what their comments might be. This is about $221,000, and the money's been raised through ARPA funds and through other funding. And we have that. It'd be nice to get this up and going and have it ready for the school year. Might not be September, but certainly before the snow falls. Any questions on the sidewalk? Okay. Item 8C is the post office lease. I reported at the last council meeting that the postal service lease expires in 2027. We received a letter from Jones Lang LaSalle, who is representing the government, and they would, in the way this works, the government picks who they want to support them, and then the lessor has to pay that bill. At the last meeting, Jerry Bohink was suggesting a gentleman who I followed up with, and then with 3 other people. I'm getting proposals for a consultant. These are small firms with people that deal almost specifically with negotiating post office leases. There's a whole sub-economy of these. There are tens of thousands of post office leases around the country. And they have the wherewithal, I've talked to 2 of them live and 1 via text or email, to negotiate the rates based on square footage, based on common area maintenance, repairs, things like that. And essentially to tell us we're either getting a fair deal that's being proposed or perhaps there's something that we can improve on that. So I asked David if he'd be willing to take a look at those proposals when I get them, and he and I will somehow grade them and get back to the finalist or 2 for a quote. I'm expecting this is to be something, you know, $5,000 to $10,000 of cost. The post office to the village is over $300,000 in 5 years worth of rent. So it's a relatively fair amount to pay for, to make sure that for the next 5 years, we're getting a good fair rent. Any questions on that? Okay, you guys are all quiet. You're holding off on something. It's coming with the dam remnant removal project from 2011. Okay, item 8D, this came up just within the last 2 weeks. We'll be polite on this. We, the village and the Chagrin River Watershed Partners, since the dam collapsed in 2011, have approached the state of Ohio a number of times looking for grant funding that would allow the remnants of the dam, which are scattered all over the dam river right now, to be picked up. And their priority for that funding was never high enough to make the cut. About 3 weeks ago, there was some re-awarding that was done. The H2 Ohio program has $250,000 identified for this program. It would be made available to the village and to Chagrin River Watershed Partners by ODNR if we could move quickly to pull this together, which we've done over the last 2 weeks. Sandra can comment on this in more detail in that she's the representative of council on the Chagrin River Watershed Partner Board and was involved in the first conversation or two. This is a relatively small project for the village. There's not a lot of money in it, which doesn't need to be. This is essentially sending some machinery into the river at a low time, busting it up, hauling it out, and restoring the riverbank to where it would have been and should have been 11 years ago. So we'll have, do we have that contract today?
Sent out.
Yeah, it was sent out. So I think I sent you all a note Tuesday or Friday, and then we have the actual contract as well. So we'll cover more on that when we get to that topic on the agenda. The pedestrian bridge, this is the old railroad bridge. We have had Isaac Lewin and his team out about 2 weeks ago. They were there with pictures and their other tools. We're waiting for their report. Dave checked with them last Thursday or Friday. The report will be out this month, maybe even in a week or two. I also checked with Michael Kelly, a friend of ours, and I think we all know Michael owns one of the largest steel erection companies in the Midwest. And he reassured me it takes several weeks to get the specs properly put together for what the analysis is or what is wrong with the bridge. So the bridge is safe. It's just, it's going to need some repairs. And we can't go forward with funding until we know the strategy on what the repairs are, what the replacements are, and what the costs are relatively. And then finally, on senior services, we have made some good contact with that. I have a small task group of 8 or 10 people. We are meeting, I don't think I brought the dates. I don't have the dates. Anyways, in the next 2 weeks, we have identified 5 dates that we will be convening, and we will also arrange for Wendy Albin Satin, who's the Executive Director of the Community Partnership on Aging, to be present at that meeting. The purpose is not to hear their proposal, though we have their proposal. It's to really hear her comment on what trends there are these days in aging, what people need, help us assess how big the need is, what the solutions might be, what the cost might be. This is the first of what I'll call several gatherings to be able to understand what we can do here in the community, what we may have done in the past that's stopped being done, like Meals on Wheels, and why that would be, and how we can get that going again, or maybe there are services that we need to procure. So Sandra is going to join us as well. She was involved with this 4 or 5 years ago with Karen when this was evaluated, so she'll have some history with that. And we have individuals that from my mayor's letter, the pink sheet, have reached out and said, I'd like to be part of that conversation. We'll get the date posted, and it'll be in the pink sheet in my mayor's letter next week. Okay, that's all I have on mayor's report, Fountain, and we covered all those other items. Financial report. Yeah, oh, you're right, thank you. Okay, there are 2 other things I had in here. Thank you, Dean. Included in your package were the statistics on the statewide passage rate of issue 2. As we know, Dan Troy came and spoke at the last council meeting about the importance of that. It's a 10-year infrastructure bill for the state of Ohio. Pleased to see that overall in the state, it was voted 2-1, so 67% for, 32% against. In Cuyahoga County, even a more overwhelming statistic, 77% for, 22% against. And in Gates Mills, essentially the same numbers, 80% for and 78% for and 22% against. So I think we should be proud that we helped pass the bill. It doesn't help us a lot with infrastructure. It does help the state. And there are at times programs that we can qualify for. Also, we wanted to share with you the results of the local levies. There weren't a lot in May. There were only 6 levies in the Cuyahoga County area that were either for tax renewals, a senior center renewal, or an additional tax. Of those levies, 6 levies, 1/3 or 2 failed, and 2/3 or 4 passed. Again, a very small sample. You can't really do much with that sample, but people always say, how did that turn out? And so this is how they turned out. I do use that as a reminder that we will have our own operating levy that we'll need to have on the ballot this year. Council has more legislation today in the agenda to pass on that. To us, it's close to $700,000 of operating funds. And so this just gives you a little feel, maybe perhaps, for how the electorate is looking at things these days. Any comments on the election results? Okay, thank you. We're still in control, Janet. Still in control. Okay, financial report has been presented. I'd say a lot of the same in the month of April as we had in the first the 3 months of the year. The real estate taxes, while they're down by $18,000, that's on an overall base of 2.2 million for the year. So 2.7 million for the year. So that'll be down less than 1%. We'll probably even catch up. Perhaps, again, the late payments that went out affected that. The other item that is just a little bit of softness to us is the traffic program enforcement program. We knew the gross receipts were down. We have seen traffic come down. That's part of it. We think people are driving more safely. The police have assured me they're not doing anything differently in terms of looking at those tickets. It may just be what it is. We also have a little less profit because last year the court took $5 more per ticket as they were allowed to do when this was set up, and that year to year affects our profitability a bit. Again, we're not in this for the profits, but if you looked at those numbers and say, why are we earning a little less than we had in the past, $5 per ticket adds up. Any questions on the financial report?
I have a question. At the last meeting, there was a comment about Senso Gatso doing a traffic study up by St. Francis to
Yes.
see whether our speed program could be extended or expanded up there. Any
Yes.
comments about that?
I will, and if we need more detail, the chief can perhaps add some color. We did ask Census Gatso to look at the speed through the school zone only, through school zone hours of roughly 7 to 9 and 2 to 4, and only on school traffic, school days. And they did that for 3 or 4 days in the month of May. I think it was after Easter, but before, I think it was after Easter. And if you take away the first day, because that's when the little black cords are down and people have decided I better slow down, and you look at the second and third day, you're averaging, I think, Chief, 50 to 100 cars a day that were speeding over 30 miles an hour in a 20-mile school zone. So we set the threshold relatively high, so we weren't capturing data at 24, or 26, or 28. It was over 30. So that's the raw data. We haven't decided what to do with that yet, Sandra. We are going to, chiefs agreed at the next meeting to pull together the data that other communities have in terms of their speeding through school zones, what their fines are, et cetera, so we have a little bit of a perspective. It may not be worth doing, frankly, if it's 50 cars a day. Likewise, if they're going over 30 miles an hour in a school zone, it very well may be worth doing and doing it a heavier fine. So we'll bring that back to council next meeting. Chief, anything to add?
Summed it up, Mayor summed it up real well. I do have some data. Our representative will be in town, hopefully next 2-3 weeks. Talk about this still with the board, breaking down some data from other communities. About 4 or 5 Kyle kind of have traffic programs in school zones. So we're gonna go ahead and kind of collect all that data. And we're gonna take a look at it, we'll see.
Good. Maybe it'll help too, because right after that school zone, like, the cars pretty much speed up going into, going towards the hospital. So
Right.
I don't know if it would help that too or not. I know that's outside of Gates Mills, but thank you for looking into it.
You recall, we had a run power down to Sherman Road, to Fox Hill Drive, but the ones that we have up there now, it wouldn't be that extensive this time because, all the infrastructure's already in place.
Okay.
Signing's already in place, so the process is not taking long. But there are some additional groups we would have to jump through before, so we have to talk to them and, make sure the judge is, understands what we're trying to do and whatnot. So we'll take a look at it and we'll make a determination.
If we do something, we'll need to bring it back to council, okay? Clerk's report?
Just one thing, over the weekend, somebody shared with me information on Hunting Valley's speed enforcement program, which I found interesting. It looks to be like, and I gave everybody a copy, and there's some more people in the audience would like it. It looks like they've got about 6 locations that they've got a program going, and some of the 6 are both directions, and I just found it interesting and had no idea they were doing it, but the police chief said he's known for 6 months, so.
Okay.
10
thought you might
cameras,
enjoy-
10 cameras, looks like.
Yeah.
Not in place yet. They're not installed or anything just yet. There's requirements they have. So I'm not thinking of Honey Valley. I don't know. I got some of the people over there. I think they're a couple months behind, but it's not.
Okay, thank you, Beth. Chief, police report, please.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have. If there's anything other than what's on my report that you shall be looking at. The mayor mentioned the traffic enforcement study that was done. So that was number 4 right there. So I don't have to go into detail on that. I think the biggest thing that happened during the month, as you could see in number 1 right there, we had a double homicide suspect who was arrested, taken into custody by Sergeant Hatoski now, and also one of our part-time officers. That happened on the 20th of April. And I never like to say that all traffic stops are routine. They're not. But in this particular case, there was nothing that impressive about the traffic stop other than the traffic violation that was committed. And lo and behold, this gentleman was wanted out of Puerto Rico for a double homicide warrant for the past 5 years. And he was on their 10 most wanted list out of Puerto Rico. And they have a $2.5 million bond on him. As of Friday, he was still incarcerated, awaiting extradition back to Puerto Rico. It got away from me today. Didn't think about calling down just to get an update on his status. So I'll do that tomorrow. So he still may be down in the county, or he may be in transport back to Puerto Rico as we speak. So, but then there was no issues with the arrest or anything like that. It was down in the I think it was the 700 block of River Road. So I think it was a Sunday afternoon, and just one of those things.
Any questions for the chief?
Chief, this is probably in their May report, but what happened on Brigham going down to River Road?
Yeah, that was, just a truck. He had every right to be there. It was just a pickup truck hauling a trailer. And You know, I think he was having some mechanical issues, potential mechanical issues, and lost control, started to fishtail, and went downhill. Fortunately, there was no, traffic moving north and southbound at that time, and he went into the guardrail, which I thought held up pretty well, all things considered, and, but that was, I think that was about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So traffic was shut down for about an hour. The fire department, I think, certainly was on scene helping out with that whole scene there, but no injuries. The driver did have a minor injury, but nothing that required, serious medical attention.
Thank you.
We should thank Dennis for directing traffic in advance. I drove by there right immediately after it happened. Dennis was out there directing traffic.
And that's why those stop signs are down there, that three-way stop. If you don't have those north and southbound stop signs, you're gonna, potentially have a real serious accident.
John, do you have a question?
Yeah, it was, well, it's just more of a statement. I was reading, Chief's back of this with the, speed, and the, versus the number of passes over there. And what I wanted to do is clarify to myself, is the system actually working? Because we all said it was, but without a percentage in there, you wouldn't be able to tell because the number of passes goes up and down. But we were looking at the solid number of people who were at 58, 59, 60. And so I just quickly made of course I printed 10 copies and left it on a printer before I left, but I quickly made a spreadsheet with a trend line that was the percentages, and you probably can't see that, but every single one of the trend lines is going exactly the way that you would want it to go. There's two different things that you're thinking about. One is the financial side of it, and one is the actual, hey, is this working? And hands down, empirically, it is working. It's exactly what was that. I was so happy when they went in because I have 4 kids that drive in and all the time. And so when they went in, I was ecstatic. And that just proved that they did exactly what council was trying to do when they put them in.
Great.
Good, thank you.
One suggestion, Chief, maybe on the back of your report,
Mhm.
maybe you could have a separate column for each month, how many citations you issued. You've got the data, it would be just good so we can track that versus the volumes and speed and so on. Citations that dictate how much money we make.
We can do that?
Yes, I can do that.
Okay.
And I would just like to just say one other thing in parting here. The St. Francis Church Festival is coming up here in a couple weeks. We do have support coming from the Cuyahoga County Sheriff's Department like we did last year. It's the 6th, it's the 5th through the 8th, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So we'll be up there in full force. Just about, everybody's on duty that weekend. Friday and Saturday are the nights that, we would be most concerned about. Most of the church festivals have gone away now. St. Clair's not having theirs this year after the ruckus they had last year. St. Pascal's not having theirs. So, we're kind of curious to see if the crowd will be up because of that. And interestingly enough, this is the first time it's not on the cruise weekend in Mayfield Village. There's the following week. So that could bring some more people out too. So, but we'll have quite a few officers working and, we'll stay on top of things.
I know there were problems 2 years ago. How was it last year?
Good, no problems. Yeah, 2 years ago we did have some issues, correct. But, we're on top of that. They've really locked some things. They've done a nice job up there. The whole perimeter is going to be fenced off, one way in, one way out. Signs, you may have seen some of the signs. There'll be additional signs about checking backpacks, masks, no masks are permitted. They reserve the right to, it's private property. They can have anybody leave who they want. So we've had our last meeting, it was a couple weeks ago. I'll talk to them one more time, but we'll be ready for it.
Excellent. One comment, David. Chief, you've got citations listed on the bottom here, 1462. Is that what you were looking for, David, or
For every
something
month,
else?
yeah, for all 12 months.
So we can see the trend.
Yeah,
We'll see the trend by month.
Right.
That's
Okay, so you're looking for a table, not
Yes.
just a table. Thank you.
Chief, I'll send you the spreadsheet that I sent, that I made the graphics of, and if you just plug the numbers in, it'll extend the graph down, which is kind of cool. So.
Just Chief, the passing the school bus, so one of our officers obviously observed that. Right?
No, he didn't. The bus driver made the complaint and we didn't observe, but he had video. So we observed the video and we had to get our prosecutor involved to get his take on it because, usually there's 2 sides to every story, sometimes 3. So the bus driver in this case actually signed the complaint and we co-signed it. So if it goes anywhere, the bus driver will be testifying along with our officer.
Gonna say, do that right in front of an officer.
That was also that was about 800 or 900 block of River Road.
Okay, thank you, Chief. Dave, Service Department, please.
Thank you, Mayor and members of council. You should have received a brief monthly report. I'm happy to answer any questions.
I would say thanks for putting the recycling statistics in there.
That's what I was going, yeah, you had asked last. So each quarter I will try to include that to kind of see where where we fall compared to the previous year.
So Dave, can you remind us where we are on the guardrail replacement project?
Contract signed. I think we're waiting for a start date essentially. We have more to do now because of that accident on Brigham. And it's not the cheaper guardrail, of course. It's, I'm sure, it's more expensive, but we'll get it taken care of. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Fire Department, please, Tom.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. I submitted a written report. Also included in the report is a pictorial for vehicle stabilization and extrication training we did, joint drill with the Mayfield Village Fire Department. And on the back of that, there's also a picture of the mutual aid, auto aid call that we went to with Chester Fire Department, where we helped revive some dogs and cats that were brought out of a structure. And then there's a picture of Bryce Day graduating from the Ohio Fire Academy. The last one is the pink sheet flyer for July, August for the 4th of July parade. And we're going to have a swearing in ceremony for our new engineers, our first class firefighters that council so graciously approved last year. They've completed all the requirements, the testing, and the mayor will swear them in at 9:30 a.m. Everyone is welcome to attend. And I will entertain any questions anyone has.
Can you give us a quick update on the fire engine specs in that, was that discussed at the safety committee? I wasn't there during that committee, but could you just provide an overview for council?
Yes, we finished the specifications. We submitted them to 5 potential bidders. Right now, 2 of them have sent back engineering specs with related costs. We're waiting for the other 3. Again, before we go through the actual process of bidding, we wanted to find out how the market was and what the potential bids might come in at.
Can you comment on the implications of the emission standards, possible change, and how that might affect the specs and the cost?
Yes, there's a couple things that have impacted the fire truck market in recent years. Number one is the exceptional cost rising through the industry. One of the things that the new administration did when they took office in January is they requested for the EPA to go and do a reevaluation of the emission standards. One of the things that we're having to contend with in the fire industry is that as the emission standards get higher and higher, the price tends to go way up. So one of the reasons why we can't get an exact duplicate of the truck that we bought in 2019 is that the engine size would have to be so much bigger, and they would have to re-engineer a lot of that. And we would lose things like compartment space and compartment capabilities. So I think it's prudent at this time to say we're going to wait until those engineering studies all come back. We'll reevaluate it, and we'll submit it to council and the mayor.
So that might push us off 3 months or 4 months. But again, the specs of what we need the trucks to do, the engines to do, turning radius, speed, length, so on, should be, that work should all be usable again. It really comes down to how big the engine and the emission standards are and what that does to the weight of the truck. Okay?
I think that was,
One,
that rule went in March 2023. And I talked to somebody in the industry on a completely unrelated thing. They're betting that rule is going to get changed.
Okay. Lori, question?
yeah, question for Chief. So do a lot of the surrounding communities also have ordinances regarding fireworks?
Yes, many of them did because the state gave us the option to. Some do not. So it's kind of many in the Hillcrest area did. And I would say it's more urban municipal places that adopted the ordinances, whereas the more rural areas did not.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Okay, item 14, committee updates. Lori, can we start with you on broadband?
Sure. So we're moving into the phase of communication with the fiber to the home. CVG would like to start with just community engagement. They've put together a pretty detailed plan around that starting in June, where they would post flyers. They plan to participate in the July 4th parade. They would like to come to the picnic. And they are hoping to use Gates Mills Connect in order to let residents know what the status is of their of the project. Starting in September, they would do informational sessions or office hours. And they've got a fairly extensive plan around that. So just starting first with community engagement, and then later on in the fall, working with residents to talk about subscription. John's been helping as well. We met with them around communication and also around some of the technology specifications. I don't know, John, if you want to fill everyone in on some of that.
They were really impressive, which was great. People that were there were, they were, although some of them were in marketing, they were still true geeks at heart, which is nice. And then we went through. We do have a question on timing as to when they're going to bring in the fiber right here. They're going to start. Lori worked out that they're going to start everything in January 1 with actually going to the homes. But I understood them to say that we would have fiber at least run the trunk line run here on September 1st. That's what I had understood, but
Yeah, we'll confirm
we could
that.
be off with by
Yeah, we weren't
60 days or
sure.
something like that. We do have to figure out where we're going to put it here. That's a big deal. So we do have to figure out where our termination point is going to be here. But they were a great group of people, and I was really, really impressed with them. Really impressed.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
Any questions on fiber to the home?
Have they signed the agreement yet?
We actually have to get them to sign the agreement. The agreement takes a lot of signatures and some of it wasn't executed properly. So
Okay.
on our end, we've got to fix that and then we'll get it signed. And also the right of first refusal would get signed as well.
There's no bump in the road or anything, it's just.
No, it's just a technical
Operation, okay.
thing. Folks were out of town. The law director has to sign it, the finance director, the mayor. And then there was just some issue around how it was signed. So we're just going to redo it and get it over to them. But
There was one
no questions.
really interesting thing that they brought up, because I couldn't figure out how they were doing it at the cost that they were doing it, because it's really expensive to bore and everything. And so I just had to delve in, and they manufacture their own stuff, which
Their own fiber.
shocked me. I just was absolutely stunned but they manufacture their own conduit. They, have their, they don't subcontract anything out. They have their own machinery. They have special machinery for, getting through rock, which fingers crossed, you know, I can't wait to see that. But, regardless, I was shocked that they manufactured their own stuff. That was really
Yeah,
cool.
they're really well vertically integrated. They've
Yeah.
really thought through this. It's
Yeah,
really impressive.
nice niche market. Yeah,
And yeah, nice that we got in when we did
yeah,
with
agreed.
them.
Good job.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you. David, Tree Canopy Committee? Or Sandra?
Dana will
Yeah,
start.
I'll start. Okay, Tree Canopy Committee, we with the village, hosted the, Holden, Meadows and, Woodlands, in a program called Caring for Your Woods, Phase 1. There were, about 53 people in attendance. 35 of them were from Gates Mills. And actually, this was a meeting for all of Cuyahoga County. Holden got a federal grant to do this particular training in the surrounding counties, so Ashtabula, Lake, Geauga, and Cuyahoga. So really, they said it was the, you know, the most highly attended, and again, you know, more than half were from the village. We do have all their contact information, so that's great. We can engage them as we go forward with, you know, information and volunteerism about the Tree Canopy Committee. There were 18 professional foresters, so people from Metro Parks and Holden, Bartlett Tree, ODNR, Sugar River Watershed Partners, Better Meadows and Woodlands. So people had a good time going around, kind of talking with those experts, getting some of their suggestions and ideas, and picking up a lot of literature. So I think it was a real success. We provided some feedback to them too from the Tree Canopy Committee. Any questions? Okay. Thank you.
The county has announced at the beginning of May that they were going to continue the grant program by which they distribute $1 million a year in the interests of a healthy urban tree canopy. It's a county grant. And the Tree Canopy Committee thought it was sensible to apply for one of those grants. And there are 3 categories: tree maintenance, tree planting, and tree planning. And to be qualified for the first 2, you need to have a tree plan, which we don't really have. So I've suggested, and we're working on a proposal to get some help with putting together a tree plan, initially just for the properties owned by the Land Conservancy and the village, in order to see what's the best way for us to attack the problem of the declining tree canopy in the stuff that we do control. And once that's put together, the idea would be that it becomes a platform for proper staffing. It becomes a platform for fundraising of all kinds. It becomes a platform for telling residents what's going on and why, and setting a good example through leadership. So hopefully we can get a grant. I think the chances are long, because 2 of the criteria they use are you in an equity zone, which means you have very, very few trees, which of course we're not. And the other is, which therefore is a positive thing if you've got a low canopy. And they also ask you what your tree canopy is, and ours of course is high, which is not a good thing if you're trying to get grants. So I would say the odds are not strong, but at least the committee agrees that we need to do some serious planning. And we lose nothing if we apply, and it doesn't cost the village a cent if we lose. So that's what we're doing. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. It's a little complicated. We've been to several presentations and Zoom meetings and so on. The bids are due on the 6th of June, which is before our next council meeting. So what we have to do needs to be done before we get together again. That's all I wanted to say. If there are any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
I think it's a good process to go through to put together the tree plan. As you said, there's elements to it that we've thought about but never put on paper. So whether we receive a favorable award or not, it's a good process to go through.
Absolutely. Thank you, Steve.
Okay, next item on the agenda belongs to me, wastewater. We've not made a lot of progress on this. We need to put together the revised ordinance with the revised rates and run those up the line, including through the wastewater committee, and use those as the basis for our wastewater reimbursement from the Hunt Club. So that lies in our administrative lap.
What do you think the time frame is for all this? When are we going to be faced with a decision?
I would say, if I could guess, 30 days. We have done all of the homework and we have the schedules put together. We need to just kind of nail it down over the next 30 days.
Good.
Scott, you okay with that?
I agree. Thank you.
Finance and budget meeting, we shared dates today with Gene and Janet to schedule some meetings, so we'll have finance and budget meeting over the next 3 weeks for our spring meeting. The safety committee, Tom and Chief led those meetings last week along with half a dozen members and covered, I think, all the topics that we covered today. You've already covered speed cameras, school zone, fire engine, staffing. And then the service committee, we want to put that together too over the next 2 to 3 weeks. I have asked Chip to help us just look at the road program that he started with Dave and with Chris 4 years ago. He's got a lot of history on the program. And we're halfway through the program. We spent over $3 million on our $6 million budget. We think we're making great progress. All the grades are turning out well. The stuff that we fixed is still fixed. But, 3 to 4 years into a 6-year program and a 7-figure program. And I just thought, I was not around at the time. I thought it would be helpful to have Chip work with Dave a little bit and with Chris on that, make sure that the same standards that we use, so what was a good or a fair and all that are done consistently so we can see how we're progressing against that. Okay, with that, we'll go to item number 15, Resolution 2025-16. This is a second reading. Resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into a service agreement with TechSpert for managed information technology services. We went through this last meeting and I think everyone was well informed. The owner of the business, Adam Szymanski, was there, made his presentation. If I recall, I think someone on council wanted John Anusko to take a look at it since that he was just new. And so we put it on first reading. John, I know since that you've met with them as well as with Sergeant Day and maybe with Gene, if you want to make any comments, that'd be appreciated.
I find myself again saying that for the second time, great. It was hard for me to do this when I wasn't involved in it and to say good job. But great job. Adam and I are two peas in a pod when we were talking on the phone and, having some fun with, going through all the techie stuff that was there. And really like the guy and really like the philosophy that they have behind maintaining things. We are in total agreement all the way down on how to keep consistency across the board so that you're not doing one thing for one client, one thing for another. And it was a fantastic conversation. So kudos. I couldn't have done it better myself.
Okay. Thank you.
Good. Thank you.
With that, I would ask that we suspend the rules and put this on final reading. There was no other information asked of us other than John's review, which he's just reported on. This allows us as well to, if you're in line, pass this now, and the agreement would be effective immediately upon that rather than waiting for a third reading and then 30 days. So if that's your pleasure, I'd appreciate a motion to suspend the rules.
So the other thing is they took out the
Indemnification.
indemnification clause. They put in a new paragraph 9. Todd, did you look at that?
Yes.
It's okay. It's really kind of circular back to paragraph 8, but.
Yes, he said it to me.
Right. Yep. So they fixed the one issue that Todd had too. So.
Thank you.
And this includes that, the additional infrastructure?
No.
Oh,
No,
That's coming later?
So, it'll come later tonight, that's correct, we could cover it briefly now. So as we were doing this in the fall, and this process again started in October for the managed services, it was before we had decided and voted on and had the 3 meetings on broadband. So that was the structure that we currently had, the infrastructure would have been suitable for this.
I'm
Now-
I'm familiar with that. I was just asking whether we're voting on that part of it now.
No, we're just
Okay.
voting on approval of the contract
Good,
for
thank you.
Texford.
Thank you.
Quick question. So I see this as a 3-year term. So then next May, this will be back on for another
Annual renewal?
well, annual renewal because of the CPI adjuster. I mean, will this have to come back every year for the next 3 years, or will this cover us through the term?
You're okay for
'Cause-
the term as long as council appropriates funds in each year's appropriation.
So that would be covered in the appropriation, which we would do in December usually.
Okay.
So as long as, it sounds like as long as we appropriate the money in December of this year, we're set for
For
26.
26. Okay. Answers my question.
Thank you.
Move to suspend.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Anton,
Yes.
Broom,
Yes.
Deacon,
Yes.
Onesco,
Yes.
Press,
Yes.
Steinbrink.
Yes.
Turner.
Yes.
Move to approve resolution 2025-16.
Second.
Thank you. Any comment? Roll call, please.
Anton,
Yes.
Broom,
Yes.
Deacon,
Yes.
Onesco,
Yes.
Press,
Yes.
Steinbrink.
Yes.
Turner.
Yes. I'm still getting used to being at the end of the list.
Thank you. Item number 16, ordinance 25-17. This is a second reading. This is the redefinition to adjust the water debt service fund to add language that would allow us to use those funds for repairs, replacements and such of $25,000 or greater. I don't believe there are any open issues from the last meeting. Any questions, nor do we have any requests for information to the mayor's office. So we can consider this on second reading, or we can act on it. We're okay either way. There's no rush to get this approved. Let's leave it on second reading then. Okay? Janet, we okay with that? Okay, next item, item number 17, this is 2025-18. An ordinance amending chapter 131, council of the codified ordinances of the village of Gates Mills. I think this is Todd. You can walk us through the background of the changes, please.
Yeah, based on the comments that were made at the last meeting, I did make revisions and I got a really good feedback from Craig Steinbrink. And a very good point to specify that there will always be an in-person meeting. Unfortunately, the presiding officer, the mayor, or if the mayor's not available, President Pro Tem will need to be sitting in a room in the village and doing it live in person. But we don't anticipate, obviously, that there'll be 7 council members absent who will be doing it virtually. So that was really the most, the biggest revision that I made, the most substantive revision and significant. So I highlighted, I believe in yellow, that I sent out on Friday, all of the changes. Hopefully that
Yeah.
translated. And,
Todd, I didn't read it or get it. I got it probably. I missed it. But there were a couple of things that John brought up at the last meeting when we reviewed it, which had to do with, the technology issues. If somebody had difficulty getting on, if they dropped off, it was minutes before they came back on, they missed a lot of the substantive discussion, could they vote? So, I mean, some of the technical aspects of that, I really hadn't thought about before, but it could be an issue. So how do we?
well,
address that?
I kind of analogize it to a situation where we have legislation on for maybe 2 meetings, 3 meetings, and someone misses a meeting, they miss that discussion. They review the minutes. It's a little different if they're gonna be voting that same day on
Yeah.
something, but, I think as long as they feel comfortable with, the legislation, which they get in advance, and they're able to vote, virtually, and present virtually, I don't see a reason why they could not be counted as part of the quorum and to be able to vote.
No, what she's referring to is if they're connecting and, their connection goes bad, then what happens? And, you know.
Well, it's too bad.
they-
Because they've got to be connected.
Okay.
And
All right, so they wouldn't be
Doesn't
on the
pro-
meeting and they
it
wouldn't
doesn't
vote.
provide for that, so.
That's in here somewhere, isn't it, as I recall? I thought it was, that if you weren't connected, you couldn't vote.
No.
No?
Oh, obviously, that's the whole intent here. If you're not connected, you don't vote.
Not connected is the same as not being
Not
present.
being Present. Right.
I'm still of mixed mind about this, with the, in person being so important for all the reasons that we discussed at the last meeting. But on the other hand, so much business is done on virtually now. We're kind of in the Stone Age if we don't move forward. So just out of curiosity, I did reach out to the 3 communities around us who have, allowed for virtual meetings just to see what their experience has been. And one of them just allowed this in 2025. It was voted on by the voters. And in that community, since that time, at least one council member has been virtual every meeting. And that could be because of travel during the winter months. It may change now that it's getting into the spring and summer and people are back. The other community, it seems like it's more occasional that people participate in virtually. More of them are in person, and it was the same with the third. One of them though brought up an interesting comment, and that was that it turned out that it really benefited the heads of the different departments, because they were able to connect by Zoom and answer questions and make their presentations. And especially if they didn't live nearby, they wouldn't be inconvenienced by being at the meeting. So I don't know if we're allowing that, but it seemed to me like that was another advantage perhaps of virtual.
I think there's something to be said for coming up with a set of guidelines for how we would behave if we had the virtual meetings. I don't think that should go in the ordinance. I think we go ahead and pass the ordinance, but I'd be all in favor of drafting some guidelines for what we regard to be acceptable behavior.
What scenario do we imagine? What scenario do we imagine where there's only one person in this room? The mayor's sitting alone here. And everyone else.
I wouldn't think that would happen, but it could.
Well, how?
We have an issue like we had with the staffing of a council member, and it wasn't planned. People maybe out of town, especially seasonal, can't get together and have a couple of days for some emergency.
Okay.
Can't imagine what that would be, but there could be an emergency situation where you need to get council's approval on something, and the way to do it is,
All right.
pretty exceptional. I think Craig suggested that primarily, so the audience is guaranteed that there'll be a place they can come and observe and ask questions and do all the things they're able to do now.
Yeah.
Well, and we've got, there is a section in here, and I can't find it right now, but it's something along the lines of, unless otherwise determined by a rule of council.
Right.
So, I think to the point where, Michael, to your point around guidelines and listen, if all of a sudden somebody's attending every meeting virtually and not coming down here, how do the other 6 people feel about that? And my guess is probably not good.
Yeah, it also says in D that we can determine the method of attendance and participation, right? So that would be another way to set guidelines, which would be important to have so that you don't have that situation, right, with just the mayor sitting by themselves. Interesting that one council has had one person who hasn't shown up at all.
Oh, it wasn't the same person.
Oh, it wasn't the same?
No, but just different,
Oh.
I'm sorry, different.
Yeah,
Every
it's not
meeting?
like-
No, different, no, I didn't mean one person. At least one
person
member
every- Okay,
of council. Maybe in a couple of
Mhm.
cases more, but
right.
not the same person.
But special meetings are challenging because people have already made plans and so on, and they come up without, a lot of notice sometimes.
I'm in favor of having some rules. I mean, I prefer the in-person meeting. I mean, I could see a scenario, the travel sports going on, I can see it, but Tuesdays are generally a pretty good day to.
Yeah, it seems if we're gonna adopt an ordinance, it would be good to do the rules at the same time. Right? To Michael's point and stuff.
Well, I think Sandra came up with a lot of different ordinances that from other communities. I don't know if those communities also have rules. We can make some revisions to this, make it a little more narrow, and you can come up with some rules.
I drafted that thing you can start that as a basis for just some of the guidelines for the thing I drafted last month for it, but I'm all in favor of the rules too. I was a holdout at my software company for, I never let any of my consultants or anything do anything virtual. And so and I was hated for 30 years for that. And then when I sold the company, COVID hit and everyone got a free pass to be in a meeting with their cat. And it was really the weirdest thing. Like I was like, oh my gosh. But I'm all for in-person meetings. However, the technical side is, we'd be behind the time, in my opinion, if we didn't approve it. But I love the idea of having rules associated with it. Some just high level.
One rule should be no cats.
That's true.
I've been in meetings when a cat will walk across
Oh, yeah.
the laptop and.
Me too.
Yep.
Tail and all, me too.
So, I mean, I know,
My
look,
dog likes
the
them.
federal court, they returned back to all in-person hearings. Now, they do some, status conferences and case management things, and it is really helpful. But there's something that you lose. Yeah. I mean, I had a guy sentenced for tax felonies standing in my office, sitting in the wing chair of my office, waiting for the judge to impose sentence, and it just doesn't seem to have the same gravitas that having a meeting in person has.
It is a generational thing too. I mean, if you talk to any of my kids, like the idea of being in person is the complete polar opposite. Being in person, and it's the entire generation. So it is there's a balance there. I'm all for in person.
Yeah.
I'm all for eye contact, in person,
Yeah.
everything, but
Well, because we've also said that all of those kids don't have social skills because they're on the computer, so.
But
we-
again, it would be nice to have the pool.
Mhm.
Our situation where we had the special meetings regarding Ed. I mean, I know Lori had things planned and
Yeah,
there was a lot of bending to try to get everyone together.
I move flights.
yeah,
So,
it was
That's
challenging.
okay.
We had
Right.
like 1 hour here and 1 hour there that
I know.
everybody was available.
Right.
So,
Yeah, you guys had plans too.
So we want some rules. Who in this group here has the time or the interest in that, in drafting those? Or should we ask Todd's and his associates to do that? Someone's got to put pen to
I
paper.
really think I need guidance on that.
Yeah. We should probably talk about what we think those parameters are.
Right.
So that,
You want to do that now, or do you want to do that later?
We can circulate it by email.
we could send comments.
Well, if somebody would do a whipping boy and send it around, would that constitute a meeting, Todd? Yeah, all right, man, we can't do that.
If everyone wants to give me, feedback, that's fine, or set up a little, ad hoc committee here with 2 or 3 people and. get together.
So what's involved in repealing an ordinance after it's been passed? So you play out
The next meeting.
okay, so you play out a scenario where 6 months or a year down the road, it's being abused. I don't think the other 6 members of council would have any issue with
Right.
working with the mayor to say,
Get rid of
this isn't going the way we thought it was, and we probably need to repeal it.
Before we get rid of the offending counts first.
Yeah.
There
I
is a
think we need
provision
to
for that.
set the expectation so that people know what's expected, you need to be on camera.
Yeah, that's another one, being on camera.
Mhm.
Because they also said that, yeah, one of the communities said, yeah, they.
Well, we can, put that in this ordinance.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And then how do you notify that you're,
Start with.
Okay.
So do we want each council person to send to Todd either areas that they want rules or some suggested rules and let him compile them, or one of his associates help?
Put in the ordinance, and some of it would be in rules to adopt.
Perfect. Yeah,
okay.
good idea.
Makes sense.
I'll send you whatever I have time.
Get 2 hall passes a year maybe, and but, it has to be on camera and, other than exceptional circumstances or, right.
Well, also, Jen and I will send to Todd our view on the committees, because some of these, the way some of the language was to talk about all committees shall do the following. Well, we have some committees that are very structured, some that are very loose, and we need to know which are really committees, which are boards, and what rules apply to which ones.
Well, and again, in my comments last time, I think the committee is where it might even be more important to have.
Right.
Right.
Right. Okay, comments and ideas back to Todd. Okay? And we'll cover this at the next meeting. Okay? Good. Follow up. Next item, number 18, resolution submitting the question of the renewal of the existing 3.5 million tax levy for the purpose of current expenses and declaring an emergency. This is, again, consistent with what we've talked about in the past. This is one of our 3 levies that we renew every several years. This one is $600 and some thousand. You have the legislation in your package. Are there any questions about this?
Why do we need to declare an emergency? This is something we're doing a year in advance anyway. Well, if you want it on the ballot, this November, August 6th is the deadline, so
Right.
It really doesn't have to be an emergency. May, June, July. Emergency means it goes into effect immediately, not talking about the waiving the 3 readings.
We can cover these every week, every month if you want to. At the same time, realistically, are we going to change anything in this item in the next 2 months? And if not, then we just carry it forward. We read it forward and we talk about it in June and July and August, and we're prepared to do that if you want to. This to me is one of those procedural things. If somebody really has a concern that we don't need the taxes or it's not the right money, higher or lower, then that's a topic. If it's just a matter of processing paper,
Yeah,
which is
but
what.
this is a tax renewal.
Sure.
So it's one, in my mind, the 3 reading rule is there to give residents a chance to express their point of view. So having 3 readings is good because they might miss it if there was only one. So I take your point about, I don't think it's going to change. I agree with you 100%, but I'd rather keep it, I'd rather not make it an emergency. If it's passed in July, it would need to be an emergency, but it would be 3rd reading. It'd be 3rd reading, yeah, at that point.
We could always, after 2nd reading.
Yeah. We can do it at the second one.
Sure.
Give everyone a chance to see it,
Yeah.
comment on it.
And it was discussed last meeting as well.
Right. The only.
We
the
just
only
want to
reason why-
socialize the thing, so if anybody has a problem, they have a chance to express their point of view to us.
The only reason I would say that we should do it earlier is just, you want to make sure
Yeah,
there's no problems
votes.
with the Board of Elections, and you want to give yourself a little bit of cushion there down to the Board of Elections.
Your pleasure.
we do need 2/3 of us to concur, and we're all here. Does that make a difference? We'd need 2/3 of 7, even if there were 6 of us here, wouldn't we?
Yes.
So, you know,
Why don't we leave it on as first reading? We'll bring it back for the second reading, hopefully with an expectation that people have had a chance to socialize it with any constituents. Any constituent comments will be shared and we'll provide data. And if there are none, then council would be asked to approve it then.
and hopefully we'll all be here.
I will comment, I found interesting the language, a resolution submitting the question of the renewal. And I guess that is, the question is yes or no. Right.
Going on ballot, yeah.
And that's, I had not seen that before, and I'm certain that's standard language.
Oh, yeah, certainly.
Yeah. It was-
There's a state statute pretty much tells you what you have to have.
Right.
Okay, next item, number 19, Resolution 25-20. This is Ms. Turner, Councilmember Turner. Would you review this, please?
Sure. A resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into a subcontractor agreement with Chagrin River Watershed Partners for a project to remove the remnants of a dam on the Chagrin River to be funded by a grant from the Ohio Department of Natural Resources. The mayor already did a good job of summarizing this. I would just repeat, I guess, a couple of issues, which is that we were approached by Chagrin River Watershed Partners. They had applied previously to ODNR last year for monies for this project, but they were not awarded funding because there were other applicants whose projects had greater water quality impact. But recently, on May 2nd, Chagrin River Watershed Partners was notified by the state that one of the accepted projects had dropped out for some reason. And so they had some money left and asked if we wanted to be considered, for those monies. And the other projects were larger, so I think there were some smaller amounts of money, and this is a smaller project, and so they were able to support us. We would be a subcontractor to Chagrin River Watershed Partners, so they would actually be the recipients of this grant. As a subcontractor, we would review all the agreements and the legal documents, and we'd have engineering oversight and approval through our village engineer. The overall amount is $25,000 for the work. We, as a village, would be able to be reimbursed for our expenses, and those expenses might be through the village engineer, they might be time from our service department, administrative work perhaps by Janet, up to $10,000. Oh, I'm sorry.
And me.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Legal fee.
How could I forget legal fees? So we would be reimbursed by the grant. The Chagrin is the lead on the project, and they would be managing the tasks and grant and administrative duties. But we would have a lot of input because we'd partner with them to develop the RFP and the specs for a design build solution. We'd meet and review the project with the potential bidders, be involved in selecting the team, and do co-manage the inspection of the build. So the project, what the project benefits is the fact that you're getting rid of the debris, and so the water's not going to be diverted and cause erosion around the banks of the river, and it's unsightly. It's going to be a lot more scenic, having that removed. The other thing that the mayor requested is that the equipment only be on the side of the river that's owned by the village. A private resident is on the other side, and he's giving, that family's giving permission for the successful contractor to be on the property, but not really to be very invasive. So overall, I think it's it's kind of a win-win for everyone. I'd be happy to answer any questions, or Chris or the mayor could help.
So Sandra, it's the purely my curiosity, so the abutments on the end, that it's causing erosion on the bank there?
Yeah,
Is the one side, then eventually that would start to erode underneath the road.
yes,
Yeah, well,
That's pretty tight up against it.
yeah.
And then I didn't look the other day, but is there rebar? Is there the pieces that are laying in there? I mean, I'm just curious,
Yeah.
what's it's just purely the,
It-
some metal in there.
okay, or asbestos back when they built?
With other pieces, is it really old high cement concrete? It's like.
Yeah. So it's gonna take a long time for the river to win.
I would add that Chagrin River Watershed Partners has been wonderful in dealing with this. They offered to us to be the lead and they be the sub or vice versa. In conversation with Sandra, who's on the board, Chris, our engineer, and Dave, our service director, the four of us felt that it would be preferable for the village to let Chagrin River Watershed Partners be the prime. This is their sweet spot, is water. They have the experience with ODNR. They have the experience with the Army Corps of Engineers that'll need to do the permitting. There's a lot of expertise and knowledge and connections they have that would be simpler than us trying to, we could do that, okay? And Dave's done that before, but this is something that would be right up their alley.
Yeah.
So I think the subcontractor role for the village is probably the right role here.
And what's the timing? I mean,
Oh, this.
I'd say
this-
that's a hurry, because I
yeah,
don't want some other project.
Right, that's the other
Fun.
point. We need to approve it now, tonight, because they want to get it in. It's part of the current fiscal allocation, and they want to have it, locked down. So if we don't accept it, they probably go to somebody else and it has to be done by the end of the month.
And Chris, the actual construction demolition project, so it gets signed now, a design of what would be the solution. Do you move the abutments? Do you leave them? What do you do with them? Then that solution needs to be suggested to the Corps of Engineer, who might take 6 to 9 months to permit it, right? And so we're asking for approval today so that we could secure these funds on behalf of all the parties. We've also contacted the private property owner on the other side who has close to 30 acres of land there, and he's agreeable to providing access to his property.
So can we start with a motion?
I would move to suspend the rules.
Second.
Thank you. Any conversation? Roll call.
Eton,
Yes.
Broom,
Yes.
Deacon,
Yes.
Onesco,
Yes.
Press,
Yes.
Steinbrink,
Yes.
Turner.
Yes,
We have a motion to approve the ordinance.
So moved.
Thank you,
Second.
Scott.
Second.
Second. Thank you, Sandra.
oh, no, that was Lori.
Lori.
Thank you, Laurie.
Doesn't matter.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Eton,
Yes.
Broom,
Yes.
Deacon,
Yes.
Onesco,
Yes.
Press,
Yes.
Steinbrink,
Yes.
Turner.
Yes,
Thank
thank you.
Thank you, Sandra.
Thank you.
The next item is, the chief can help us with this one, Resolution 2025-21, first reading. Resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into a contractual agreement with the city of Solon for jail services for the village of Gates Mills prisoners and declaring an emergency. We have a very limited need for jail services, maybe less than 10 times a year. Times that we do need them, the other county is full, usually Jaga. Solon provides full services, has the capacity, and is essentially what's called a full-service jail service, which includes medical attention and other kinds of things that might be needed. So the chief can answer any questions, but we would need approval to enter into this contract with the city of Solon. Chief, on anything? Was that?
No, I mean, you highlighted, we're Jog County for years, and, it's nothing really that's fit for us anymore right now. They turned us away, we went to prisoner a couple times, then becomes a little hassle and try to find a shelter for the prisoner.
if you will. Sullivan won't do that. Out of county, too, there's good relationship there, so he's great. So it's very rare. Full service facility, you know, these would be for like the extended, there's domestic violence. So I'm not talking about the run of the bill, ODI. We need housing.
In what situations do we take people down to the county, like the sheriff, this fella from Puerto Rico? Are those felony charges?
Well, that would be felony jurisdiction there, but, yeah, that was a different situation there. But, they were obligated to kind of take our prisoner, so to arrange that extradition hearing for us.
What do you do right now for when it's just been overnight?
Jug County.
So that is, okay.
Well, that's what it is, but we have been turned away. So then we, the officer in charge, the supervisors on that night would call Mayfield Heights, but they're not full service. They don't have staff in there all the time, so it becomes a burden for that department as well. Where we talk to Lyndhurst, Ritz, or Mayfield Heights, we'll just try to get somebody.
So when you do go to someone that you just negotiated with, is there a rate that you know that you're gonna have to pay them?
Yes,
225.
yes.
But no, I mean, when you do go with someone, like when you're, not when this negotiated, but like, hey, you're turned away from here and you go to another place.
It's usually a mutual aid gratis. We have a good relationship with our neighboring communities, but, post people off the road and then you're feeding prisoners and there's phone calls and then it could become a burden.
Wow. That's interesting.
I hate to be a broken record, but why is this one an emergency?
It doesn't have to be.
Lived without it for a long, long time.
It's not listed as that.
It is.
Oh, it is up there. Excuse me.
It would just go into effect immediately if you pass it as an emergency instead of 30 days waiting.
We can wait. We don't have that big of a demand.
I'll make a motion to suspend.
Second.
Thank you. Thank you, Craig. Any discussion? Roll call.
Anton,
Yes.
Broom,
Yes.
Deacon,
Yes.
Onesco,
Yes.
Press,
Are we voting on the suspension?
Yeah.
Yeah, all right.
Fine.
Steinbrink,
Yes.
Turner.
Motion approve. Thank you, Scott.
Second?
Thank you, Lori. Any discussion? Roll call.
Anton,
Yes.
Broom,
Yes.
Deacon,
Yes.
Onesco,
Yes.
Press,
Yes.
Steinbrink,
Yes.
Turner.
Thank you.
Because this is not unusual. The feds don't have any place to keep people in. And they contract all over. There's the whole thing of where to move people. That is so strange. Yeah. You don't.
What we do?
Yeah, we used to have a jail.
Just a headache.
Yeah.
Keep them certified.
Times have changed. Okay, ordinance 25-22, this is an ordinance to amend the annual appropriations to increase, an ordinance to amend the annual appropriation ordinance 2024-52 to increase certain appropriations and other expenditures of the village for the year ending December 31, 2025. So, two items are on here. We need an additional appropriation of $22,000 to the police department for the way the car, the vehicles were eventually dealt. As you know, we expected to trade in the car, the Tesla, and that would have required a smaller expenditure. As it turned out, we sold the Tesla and then bought replacement vehicles. That was a larger cost, obviously. And so technically, we need an additional $22,000 to permit that transaction. Also, the service department increase of $39,000. $30,000 of this is for our technology upgrades that we are talking about shortly. These are the infrastructure upgrades that are needed due to the broadband being installed, which will bring a higher speed and expectation than the current technology that we have, and $9,000 additional for the Mills building. As you may know, we spent a fair amount of effort, some of it our own labor, but did the common area painting and all the common area carpeting and the common area tile floor on the first floor, consistent with the same time that Saros was closed, and they did their 10-year refresh. When we did the budget, we hadn't expected either 30,000 in technology upgrades nor had that have a cost on the Mills building. Any questions? Okay, may I have a,
So Steve, the upgrade on the network equipment,
yes,
That I was gonna, I didn't know if I was supposed to talk about that now.
thank you, John.
Okay, yeah, I was waiting for that. Okay, so there is something that has to be, there are two issues that really we have to, think about. So what happened was, when I was talking to Techspert and when I was talking to CVG, CVG is gonna be bringing in, 2,000 megabits to here. We are currently set up with our infrastructure here with 100 megabits. So all of the hardware that's here is all centered around being 100 megabits. So if you can think about this, what would happen is we would get this huge pipe in here and then we'd drink from it through a straw and everyone would go, well, where's all my speed? And you'd run a speed test and you would see 100 megabits because that's all the infrastructure around here would have. Most importantly, the firewall. Those are the most expensive pieces of equipment that we have. So when I was talking with Techspert and we started looking at what each of the piece of machinery, piece of equipment that we have around here, the one thing that is, so there's two things to talk about the quote that's on the back here because it's the first that just came in. First of all, this doesn't include a few $1,000s for putting the stuff in, but on top of that, there are, if you notice on line item number. Line number 1, quantity of 2. So this one's an interesting one that I feel strongly about on one direction, but you guys may feel completely opposite of that. Right now, we come in and there's 100 megabits that come in and there's a firewall, which is basically, if you guys think about it as being your cable modem that's at home or whatever you might have at home, it's your one point of failure to the outside world. Every single business I've ever been associated with has what's called an HA pair, an high availability pair. So if you put in 2 gateways, 2 firewalls, if one breaks, the other one immediately takes over. Shockingly, we don't have that now. And so I talked to Adam and I'm like, hey, I can't believe it. We don't have that right now because it runs a police department, runs fire, everything, everybody has internet through that. And he goes, oh, nobody does. And so there's a disconnect and I'm from the corporate world and and I was absolutely shocked that it wasn't in place. But then when he came back and said, well, nobody does it, but I would love to put it in every place. So we have 2 different things. My corporate experience says you always put it in and perhaps government doesn't. So that is the most expensive line item there is that firewall. Now, things will change when we do get the 2,000 megabits that are in here, the 2 gigabits that are coming in here, because we're going to service more of this area is going to be funneled through that one firewall. So everything, I think that we're taking it over to the buildings that we have across the street and everything. So kind of if that one device goes down, everything goes down. And and the other one would take over in an HA pair. Now, the question everyone has to ask themselves is everyone here okay with going down for anywhere from 48 to 72 hours? And that's the question. And my corporate, I'm the wrong guy to answer that because my corporate thing is like, oh gosh, no, you can't go down for, 48 to 72 hours. So that one line item number 1, quantity can either be 1 or 2. I can, I lean heavily on the HA pair, but if no one else is doing it, I don't know.
Well, I'd be supportive of doing it the right way and doing the pair.
I've never done it otherwise, but I was shocked when Adam told me that it wasn't the norm.
Wouldn't want it to go down if you're having a virtual meeting, so.
Right, yeah. That's true. So, and then keep in mind that this does not include the installation of this. And the installation of this would probably take, the installation itself of all this additional hardware that allows everybody to enjoy that and has redundancy and all that The installation itself is probably only like a 3 to 4 day installation, but it will take place over a 2 to 3 month period because they'll run one wire out to, they'll do a site plan. They'll run a wire of fiber optic cable over to here. They'll run a Cat6 over to here. And then they'll do testing of the HA pair ahead of time, and then they'll have a changeover date. So you can say that it's probably going to be like a 60 to 90 day period that they'll be doing that over. Nothing, they're not going to be here for 60, 90 days. They're going to do, 4 hours here, 4 hours there, that kind of deal. And then it would be in place.
And that cost is about $6,000,
Yeah, I think
6 to 8. And that'll just be covered in a normal service with Techspert.
Expert does all the work.
Thank you, John, for that, and thank you for the write-up and the layman's explanation of that. That was helpful.
Yeah, just quick question. Thank you for the insight here. And so just seems like a lot of money for a piece of hardware. And so I went online and it's like a quarter of the cost. So did I punch in the wrong?
You had to,
Like,
because that is.
$8,000 for a switch, and I looked online, CDW and some other places had it for like 2,100. So
Which one?
the top one, the WatchGuard M390. And so I looked.
You know what? They charge you by, they charge you by, speed.
Okay,
Yeah.
so, so that's kind of leading me another couple of questions here. So I assume all the ports and the switches that this is, there are
Everything
24
from,
ports.
line item number 2 through 5. And quite frankly, this is the first I saw this.
Okay,
So I didn't actually see this before, I actually didn't even see the back of this. And so that's the first I actually saw that he got me back the quote.
okay,
So I didn't actually do the, due diligence of looking up each item. They get you on firewalls because it's always speed-based, which is just a total,
Okay.
scam in my opinion, but it is what it is, and that's kind of normal. The line items 2 through 5 should be completely and totally, those are just off-the-shelf units.
and that's just spec'd out for, hey, I look at, there's 100 ports in there, so there's 100 devices around here that are plugged into a network cable. It's so I'm just,
All the
I know the
ports
hardware guys
reactive
love to come in and.
From 2 down, 2 through 5 are off the shelf. Like you should be able to go to Micro Center and get these things.
Okay, I just meant from the actual, are there 100 devices? He's got 4 24-port switches in there.
No, there
That-
would not be 100 devices. Generally, you'd put in probably half of them.
Okay, so that's,
Yeah.
that's where I'm kind of going with this. And then the last question is, so are homeowners going to have to now be forced into some expensive piece of hardware when this rolls out for?
Only for us. This is for us for redundancy and for bringing up all the infrastructure here. A homeowner is obviously going to be responsible for everything that they put in their home. So they're going to get, if someone came to me personally and asked me what to put in place, I would tell them exactly what to get, and it would cost them from Micro Center probably $200. And that would run your house perfectly, and you'd be happy, and you'd be grinning ear to ear with your gigabit connection up and down. For us, that would not be the case here, because we've got infrastructure of access points that are facing outward, access points inside.
Yeah.
Running fiber. Well, we actually have fiber I was shocked we actually have fiber going over to the service department already, which is kind of cool. Yeah.
All right, thanks.
But I will, now you bring up a really good point. I will verify every single one of the numbers on here.
Okay.
Okay, any further questions? So appreciate a motion to suspend the rules. Thank you, Sandra. Second?
But the only question I have is, we don't know, I haven't, I guess I can.
Well, it's a dollar amount here.
Yeah, it's just-
Oh, okay, so it's not like this is, okay, good,
Yeah.
all right, good.
Yeah.
Good,
Good point, though.
all right, so,
Have
sorry
a
about that.
second, please.
I think Lori did.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Eton.
Yes.
Broom.
Yes.
Deacon.
Yes.
Onesco.
Yes.
Press.
Yes.
Steinbrink.
Yes.
Turner.
Yes.
We have a motion to approve ordinance 25-22, please.
So moved.
Thank you, Laurie. Thank you, Scott. Clerk, roll call, please, Beth.
Eton.
Yes.
Broom.
Yes.
Deacon.
Yes.
Onesco.
Yes.
Press.
Yes.
Steinbrink.
Yes.
Turner.
Yes.
Also added to your agenda this evening was Resolution 25-23, a resolution authorizing additional fees to be paid to the law firm of Taft, Stentinius and Hollister for special legal services and declaring an emergency. Our agreement with Taft was hourly-based work with a expectation of not to exceed $25,000 unless discussed with us as a client. We have not exceeded that amount in terms of what we've paid them, but we now have bills. Those bills add up totally for the project to $35,963. So we would need additional authorization of $11,000 to increase the $25,000 amount to $36,000. Their bills are sent, I think I sent each of you all email earlier today, you may not have caught up with it. Their bills are received on a monthly basis. The timekeepers are identified, time is kept to a tenth of an hour. Descriptions are indicated for every piece of time charged. Those invoices were reviewed by Lori and myself, found the work to be fairly descriptive of what they did. Lori or Michael, who've also dealt with them during the contract, may have some comments on that. I find their fees to be fair for the services provided. Lori?
Yeah, no, I agree. The contract the services agreement did end up fairly complex because of the right of first refusal that was in there. The indefeasible right to use, that was a fairly complex document. Other exhibits, the in-kind credits and so on. So it was fairly complicated, and the committee did a fair amount of work themselves to mitigate that. We didn't just punt it to the lawyers. We did a lot of the legwork. So I think it's very reasonable. They were good.
Okay. Okay. May I have a motion, please?
So
To suspend the rules, excuse me.
So moved.
Thank you, Craig. Second, please.
Second?
Thank you, Laurie. Roll call.
Eton.
Yes.
Broom.
Yes.
Deacon. Yes. Onesco.
Yes.
Press.
Yes.
Steinbrink.
Yes.
Turner. Yes.
We have a motion to approve Resolution 2025-23. Laurie? Sandra? Thank you.
Second?
Thank you, Laurie. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Eton.
Yes.
Broom.
Yes.
Deacon. Yes. Onesco.
Yes.
Press.
Yes.
Steinbrink.
Yes.
Turner. Yes.
Okay, that completes the materials that you were shared in advance. Item 22, are there other council matters to discuss?
I'm gonna go back real quick to the, thing, so I use PFSense firewalls. I just looked up, they actually do it by year of subscribing to their security suite. So what you're actually paying for is 3 years of their total security suite.
Okay.
And I just looked up and the retail price on that is $8,057 and they're at $8,256.
Okay.
But I will tell you that then I've got to look at line number 2, which I think is overpriced. So it'll be interesting to look at. But so they're going to get you one way or the other
Okay.
to make sure that you're at a certain amount when you're doing. And this is for 2.5 gig. It'll support up to. And so PFSense, they actually charge you per gigabit that you're using. And so, but they do it different and charge you per year for the
Service.
suite.
Okay,
So,
makes sense. Thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, any business from the audience?
Lori, oh,
Yeah, I've got business.
Sorry.
From the audience. So,
I have a couple.
oh, did you have a council matter?
Go ahead, be my guest.
Okay, this is, I'm speaking on behalf of Marie, who couldn't be here for the Gates Mills Garden Club. Just wanted the council and residents to know that the first week in June is National Garden Week. And there's 2 very important events that the community is invited to. The first is on Wednesday, June 4th. It's Restoring Nature's Beauty, celebrating 90 years of the Gates Mills Arboretum. They'll have the CEO of Better Meadows and Woodlands there for an engaging talk about invasives. I've heard him speak. He's terrific. I've got some flyers. They are asking for RSVPs because it's at the barn, and so space is limited. And then on Friday, June 6th, there is a garden tour of the historic Gates Mills Garden Club. They're also asking for RSVPs. You can take a guided stroll through the gardens, which are really quite amazing. The Gates Mills Garden Club is very lucky to have that facility that was left to them by a member, the home and the barn. It's really quite beautiful. They might be the only garden club in the country that actually has that type of buildings and gardens.
It's also on that, June 1 is the opening of National Garden Week, at which we'll make a
June 1 is the
proclamation.
opening of National Garden Week, right, and this is how we're celebrating. So I've got flyers, I'll put them out, and if anyone would like them, love to have you be there. Just make sure you RSVP.
Michael, you had several items?
I had two. One is, I listened to the earlier discussion about Hunting Valley putting in traffic cams, which made me wonder whether we ought to think about a broader program. Right now, we're only covering Mayfield, which most of the traffic isn't even Gates Mills traffic. But if Hunting Valley's putting in 6, maybe we ought to at least think about whether we should do that. I know we have roads where people speed. I live on one, county line. I know Hunting Valley's putting a couple on River. Wilson Mills might be a candidate, I don't know. But maybe it's something we ought to give some thought to.
I couldn't agree more. I was thinking the exact same thing when I saw that, who brought that, you brought that in? When I saw that, I was shocked at how many they had, and I was like, whoa, that is, yeah.
Yeah, they're sending a message. for
They
sure.
are. I like the message, you know, don't speed.
We can certainly look at that. Will be interesting to, if Hunting Valley is willing to share this at the right time. You know, the Census Gasso puts up all this equipment on their own nickel and shares it based on the proceeds of the tickets. Certainly when you have something like Mayfield and you're issuing 1,500 tickets a month, it's going to pay for Lyndhurst Court, it's going to pay for Gates Mills efforts, and it's going to pay for Gatso's. Whether they'll get that kind of volume, Michael, on Chagrin River Road, that will allow them to allow Census Gatso to make this economically good enough for them, I don't know.
There's a lot of people speeding up there, I can tell you that.
I just, you know, it has to be good for them economically, or Hunting Valley would have to pay them for that service. Right now, we're not paying for that service. They get a share, as you know.
The second issue I thought about, something David raised last week or last month. But if I were running the Land Conservancy, I might want the same treatment we're giving the renewal levy, the 3.5 mil renewal levy. I mean, it would be nice if I were running it to have the visibility, if an acquisition were to come my way, to know whether I had funds I could count on down the road or not. Maybe we ought to go to them and ask them if they'd like the same treatment, if they'd like us to put that levy on this year's ballot instead of waiting till next year's ballot. If they don't want it, fine. If they do want it, we still have time.
3-year rotation versus, or
It's
1-year
a
rotation?
5-year.
Oh, it's 5 year, so 1/5 of it every year?
Correct.
You must remember that the sharing agreement is only in place till the end of next year. So if the levy's put on and it passes and we don't renew the sharing agreement, they don't gain.
True.
So it's messy.
All the more
Well,
reason to
they don't-
start.
They don't have to.
If it's messy, it's all the more reason to start early and not wait till next year. I'm not saying we force them to do it. I'm just saying we give them the opportunity to do it if they would like to.
We would give them the opportunity to ask us to put the levy on a year earlier.
Correct.
It's our choice to put the levy on, not their choice.
Right. That's correct.
And as I've said in my previous comment, we can have a further discussion on this. I don't think either party has demonstrated enough use of the levy monies that we've gotten to make a compelling case.
I'm not
Agreed.
sure we have yet, but they have. I would imagine, didn't they make a pretty decent sized acquisition up on Mayfield this year?
We've also
Or last
forced
year?
them, we've also forced them not to spend their money. We asked them to put this $700,000 reserve together by the end of 26.
I wouldn't use the word force. I don't think we forced them to do anything. They agreed to do that as their governing board.
All right, but whatever you want to say. But that's the fact. They would.
No, that was
they
a
cannot
condition,
spend it.
I think, of the renewal of the last sharing agreement we negotiated 4 years ago. complicated.
That did not exist, pre-exist.
No.
I think.
Well, it may have
a good
existed, but a
argument for
different
starting
percentage.
now, if they're willing and want to do it.
Voters would want to know if there's a sharing agreement in place or not.
Well, there is until the end of next year.
Right, but
They'd
I
want to
mean,
know,
on the renewal.
Coupling them in time.
they'd want
on
to
the
know what the
renewal, I'd
new
wanna
agreement
know
is.
as a voter, if the
Yeah.
agreement was in place or
Yeah,
not.
what was different.
Yeah.
Why would you want to decouple them? Right now, people know that the sharing agreement was agreed to and it was part of
They're
part of the
coterminous.
levy. Yeah. What's wrong with that?
Nothing.
They know what they're voting for. And they knew how the money would be, would be divided.
Right.
If we decouple them, then they're going to say, well, what if, you know, the new levy is renewed in 2 years, but the sharing agreement isn't up or it's up next year?
Yeah, no,
There's some certain cleanliness to it to have them at the same time.
oh, yeah, and I agree. And if we didn't have them together, people would ask for it. They'd say, is it the same as last year or what, you know, what is it? And we haven't really had those discussions. It's,
Why don't we have, why don't you give a call to the president, the new president, and see what he'd like to do?
I'll be happy to call them. Okay. Any other comments from council? Any comments from the audience? Mr. Spear?
Comment.
Yes.
Hunting Valley put something on their ballot in May, whereby they're prohibiting, they voted to prohibit initiatives and referenda on a number of particular topics, one of which is zoning. So the Constitution of the state of Ohio says that the voters have the right to conduct a referendum, to overturn a council decision, or an initiative to have something on the ballot of their own. And Hunting Valley seemed very comfortable just saying, no, that's not the case. We overrule that. So I didn't know home rule superseded the state constitution. I know it supersedes the Ohio law, whatever it's called, the
Ohio Revised Code.
yeah,
Statutes.
but not the Constitution.
And I've discussed this with the law director of Hunting Valley, who happens to be our prosecutor. Oh, Mr. Cicero. They felt they had, it's a very small village population-wise. I think he said at the May 6th election, they only had 150 people vote.
Less, 110.
And they had, and they had some initiatives that were being proposed for road improvements as part of their building code, and that are now private streets. And some residents wanted those dedicated as public streets. They have provisions that public streets have to be built to Ohio Department of Transportation standards. So there were issues like that. And so they felt they had enough voters to pass something like this, even though it's sort of it's my opinion. I can read you the one sentence in the Ohio Constitution that's pretty clear, and that is the initiative and referendum powers are hereby reserved to the people of each municipality on all questions which such municipalities may now or hereafter be authorized by law to control by legislative action. Pretty broad.
Pretty clear, though.
Yeah, it's very, and that goes to any substantive issues. And so they then said you can't have initiative referendum on any zoning code matter, any building code matter, and a catch-all that says the village code. I think that goes way too far, but I don't think they felt that they would be challenged.
Obviously, yeah.
And the other thing that they did in the vote was to go to 25% of those votes in the prior municipal election for the number of signatures needed on a petition for initiative or referendum. I sort of question that because generally, if you're doing a charter amendment, it's 10% of those who voted for in the gubernatorial election.
But the case law has said that that's procedural, does not necessarily violate the Constitution. It could if it's unreasonable. Well, 25% of the population of Hunting Valley is not very many signatures to get on a petition. 25% of the city of Cleveland or a larger suburb is a lot of signatures. So that might be unreasonable in Cleveland Heights, for example, but maybe not in Hunting Valley. So. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Spear.
Impediment has been the, Open Meeting Act. I don't believe as long as I've been around here, we think applies to us.
Oh, it does.
Being the potential candidate for the appointment, there were 16 slides that talked about that. So I think it applies to us. It was amended effective April the 8th, and it says, this publicly elected body may not hold virtual meetings. Perfect. No question. That's the thing. How do we get around that? And the answer, I think, is that we have an ordinance that says this body shall not have virtual meetings. Our meetings will always be in person, although members of council can attend the meeting online. So if we start out with a statement that says, we're not violating the open meeting law, we're agreeing with it, there will be no virtual meetings here. And so I think it works then. I don't think we can get it done. And I'm pretty sure, Todd, that's what I heard you talking about. You have to remember, I graduated from law school in 1968, never practiced a day in my life. So my reading of the statute may not be all that clear, but I think this is the way to do it. And as long as we got an opportunity for the public to come to the meeting, even if there's just the mayor or the mayor pro tem sitting there and everybody else is up on the screen, that would work.
Yeah, that's the intent.
That was my one. Thank you. Website.
We'll make sure that if there's a noise study, we won't have it on that day.
And
Okay.
former Fire Chief Tom Robinson will be leading that ride.
Motion to adjourn the meeting, please.
So moved.
Thank you, Scott. Second. Thank you, Lori. Roll call, please.
Eton.
Yes.
Broom.
Yes.
Deacon.
Yes.
Monesco.
Yes.
Press. Steinbrink.
Yes.
Turner.
Thank you all for your active participation and preparation.
I have some in here.